On a warm summer night in 2019, a lively party was taking place at a spacious house with a yard in the suburbs of Seattle, Washington. It was the birthday party of Sarah, Jessica's best friend, whose name has been changed. Jessica was happy to be invited to the party with Sarah's family and other friends. Sarah's house was in a rather quiet area, surrounded by trees. The spacious yard was decorated with twinkling lanterns, creating a cozy and cheerful atmosphere. People were laughing, dancing, and enjoying food and drinks. Jessica was standing and chatting with Sarah and a few friends in the backyard area. The light from the house illuminated a part of the yard, but further away, darkness enveloped the large trees. While laughing and talking happily, Jessica suddenly glanced towards the trees in the distance. She felt as if something was not normal there. She squinted, looking closer. In the darkness, among the dense tree branches, Jessica briefly saw a blurry white figure hovering in the air. The figure was still, not moving at all. Jessica thought it might just be a balloon stuck in the tree or some decoration she hadn't seen. She softly said to Sarah, "Hey, look there. What's that white thing in the tree over there?" Sarah looked in the direction Jessica was pointing, but she only saw darkness and tree branches. "I don't see anything," Sarah said. "You must be mistaken." Jessica felt a little confused. She was sure she had seen a white figure. She decided to go closer to see more clearly. She said to Sarah, "I'm going to go check what that is." Jessica slowly walked towards the trees in the distance. The closer she got, the more her sense of unease grew. The air became colder, even though it was a warm summer night. The laughter and chatter from the party seemed to fade away, leaving only an eerie silence that enveloped this area. When Jessica got close to the trees, she looked up. The faint light from a nearby lantern shone up, helping her see the white figure more clearly. Jessica was horrified to realize it wasn't a balloon or a decoration at all. It was the figure of a woman wearing a long white dress, her long black hair flowing down, obscuring her face. She was hovering in the air, among the branches, as if weightless. Jessica stood frozen under the tree, staring in horror at the woman in the white dress hovering in the air. She didn't move, just stayed there, like a ghostly statue. Jessica tried to call Sarah's name, but her voice caught in her throat. She felt utter terror engulf her. She had never seen anything like it before. Suddenly, the woman in the white dress slowly raised her head. Her long black hair parted, revealing a pale white face with no expression. But what terrified Jessica the most were her eyes. The woman's eyes were large and black, like two bottomless pits. They stared intently at Jessica with a cold and lifeless gaze. Jessica felt as if her soul was being sucked into those eyes. A faint moan echoed, not from the woman, but from somewhere around them. The sound was sad and mournful, like the cry of a suffering spirit. Jessica felt a bone-chilling cold spread through her. She knew she was facing a terrifying supernatural force. She wanted to run, but her legs seemed to be frozen in place. The woman in the white dress still stood there, her dark, hollow eyes staring intently at Jessica. She felt as if the woman was trying to tell her something, but she couldn't make a sound. Jessica tried to speak. "Who are you? What do you want?" Her voice was trembling and weak. There was no answer. The woman in the white dress just continued to stare at her, her deep black eyes like the night sky. Jessica felt a strange urge to get closer to the woman, to find out about her. But another part of her screamed that she had to run, had to get out of this place immediately. Just then, Sarah and a few friends walked closer. seeing Jessica standing alone under the tree looking up at the sky. "Jessica, what are you doing here?" Sarah asked. Jessica startled, turning back to look at Sarah and her friends. She pointed up at the sky, her voice trembling. I saw a woman in the tree." Sarah and her friends looked up, but they saw nothing. "What are you talking about, Jessica?" Sarah asked, looking confused. Jessica looked back up at the sky and was horrified to realize that the woman in the white dress had disappeared. There was no figure hovering in the tree anymore. It seemed she was the only one who had seen her. Sarah and her friends looked at each other with suspicion. They thought maybe Jessica had had too much to drink or was just stressed. Sarah said, "Jessica, are you sure? I and everyone else don't see anything." Jessica felt confused and a little hurt. She knew what she had seen was real, but no one believed her. She tried to explain in detail the appearance and terrifying eyes of the woman in the white dress. However, Sarah's friends still didn't believe her. They laughed and joked that Jessica was seeing ghosts. Jessica felt uncomfortable and decided she wouldn't say anything more. They returned to the party. But Jessica no longer felt as cheerful as before. She constantly felt uneasy and occasionally glanced towards the trees behind the house. Throughout the evening, Jessica still felt like someone was watching her. She occasionally heard strange noises coming from outside, like unusual rustling of leaves or the breaking of branches. Jessica tried to ignore those sounds, telling herself it was just the wind, but the feeling of being watched did not disappear. When the party ended, it was quite late. Jessica decided to stay over at Sarah's house, as she didn't want to drive home late at night. Sarah prepared the guest bedroom on the second floor for Jessica. The room was quite spacious and had a large window overlooking the backyard, right where Jessica had seen the ghostly figure in the trees. Jessica felt a little worried knowing she would be sleeping in this room, but she didn't want to voice her fear, afraid that Sarah would think she was crazy. Before going to bed, Jessica carefully checked the windows and doors to make sure everything was securely locked. She got into bed, turned off the lights, and tried to fall asleep. However, Jessica couldn't sleep at all. She constantly felt as if someone was in the room with her. She listened to every small sound in the quiet house. Around 2 a.m., as Jessica was trying to drift off to sleep, she suddenly heard a strange noise coming from outside the window. It was a soft scratching sound, as if someone was scratching on the glass pane. Jessica startled and sat up, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked towards the window, where darkness enveloped everything. She saw nothing, but the scratching continued, slowly and steadily. Jessica felt utter terror. She knew that the ghostly woman in the white dress had returned. She was right outside her window. The scratching sound on the window pane continued, slowly and steadily, as if deliberately tormenting Jessica's nerves. She lay curled up in bed, her whole body trembling with fear. She didn't dare turn on the light, afraid it would make the ghost more aggressive. Jessica tried to stay silent, her breathing becoming rapid. She listened to every small sound, hoping the scratching would stop. After a while, the scratching stopped completely. Jessica breathed a sigh of relief, but the feeling of unease remained. She wondered if the ghost had left or was still standing right outside. In the darkness, waiting, Jessica lay silent in the darkness, trying to listen for any other sounds. She heard the gentle rustling of leaves in the trees, the chirping of crickets, but nothing unusual. Just as Jessica was starting to feel more at ease, she suddenly heard a very soft whisper coming from outside the window. The voice was high-pitched, cold, and difficult to make out, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. Jessica startled. She was sure it wasn't the wind. It was a woman's voice. She tried to listen more carefully. The whisper came again, this time a little clearer. Jessica could hear disjointed syllables, but she still couldn't understand their meaning. The voice sounded very sad and mournful. Jessica felt utter terror engulf her. The ghostly woman in the white dress was talking to her. She was standing right outside the window, and she wanted Jessica to hear something. Jessica sat up from the bed and slowly walked towards the window. She hesitated for a moment, but curiosity urged her on. She wanted to know who the ghostly woman was and what she wanted to say to her. When Jessica got close to the window, she looked out through the dark glass. She saw nothing but darkness and tree branches. She felt a little disappointed. Maybe she had left already. Just then, Jessica suddenly saw something move in the distance. Among the trees, it was a blurry white figure hovering in the air. Just like the first time she saw her, the figure slowly flew closer to Jessica's window. This time, it didn't stop in the distance, but flew directly to the window of her room. Jessica stood frozen, staring in horror at the ghostly woman hovering right outside the window. She was no longer blurry as before, but appeared much clearer. Jessica could clearly see her pale white face, long black hair, and deep, hollow dark eyes. Those eyes stared directly at Jessica, and she felt as if she was being pulled into them. A soft whisper echoed, this time right outside the window. The voice sounded clearer, but still high-pitched and cold. Help me. Hearing the faint plea for help from the ghostly woman in the white dress, Jessica felt a mixture of fear and sympathy. She knew that this spirit was in great pain and needed help. Jessica tried to ask, Are you okay? Can I help you with anything? Her voice trembled, but this time she wasn't as scared. The ghostly woman looked at Jessica with tearful eyes. She didn't say anything, only slowly raised her hand and pointed in a direction. It was towards the forest in the distance, where a trail led deeper inside. Jessica felt a strange urge to follow the direction the ghost had pointed. She felt as if a secret was hidden in that forest, and it was connected to this ghostly woman. However, Jessica's logic told her that she shouldn't go into that forest alone late at night. She knew it could be dangerous. Jessica said to the ghost, I can't go into the forest right now. It's too late. The ghostly woman looked disappointed. She gently shook her head, and her eyes became sadder. Emily said, I sense that she is in great need of help. Something happened to her in the forest. Jessica felt confused. She didn't know what to do. She wanted to help this ghostly woman, but she was afraid of what might happen in that forest. Just then, Jessica suddenly remembered a story she had once heard about this area. People said that many years ago, there had been a mysterious disappearance in the forest behind Sarah's house. A young woman had gone into the forest and never returned. Jessica shivered at the thought of this story. Perhaps the ghostly woman she was seeing was the missing woman. Jessica looked at the ghostly woman, her voice trembling slightly. Are you the woman who went missing in the forest? The ghostly woman gently nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. Jessica felt deep sympathy. She had been trapped here for many years, unable to find peace. Jessica said, I will try to help you, but I need to know what happened to you. Who harmed you? The ghostly woman didn't say anything, just continued to look at Jessica with sorrowful eyes. Then she slowly bowed her head and vanished into the darkness. Jessica stood there alone, a cold feeling enveloping the room. She knew that she had been given a task. She needed to find out the truth about the ghostly woman's death and help her find peace. The next morning, Jessica told Sarah about what she had experienced the previous night. This time, Sarah no longer doubted her. She saw the fear in Jessica's eyes was real. Sarah also felt a chill knowing that a spirit was haunting her house. Jessica and Sarah decided they would investigate the mysterious disappearance that had occurred in the forest. They searched for information online, read old newspaper articles, and asked elderly local residents. They learned that the missing woman's name was Emily, another coincidence. And she had disappeared in the summer of 1990. Emily was a young, beautiful, and vibrant girl. She had planned to get married that year. Jessica felt a deep sadness when she learned about Emily's story. She thought perhaps the ghost she had seen was Emily. They also learned a few strange details about Emily's disappearance. The police had searched the entire forest but hadn't found any trace of her. The case was closed without finding the culprit. Jessica and Sarah decided to go into the forest to search for clues. Although they were scared, they believed it was the only way to help Emily find peace. They prepared necessary items, including flashlights, water, and a compass. They told Sarah's family they were going for a walk in the woods but hid the real purpose of their trip. As they entered the forest, the air became colder and gloomier. Sunlight barely penetrated the dense canopy, creating faint streaks of light on the ground. The forest was eerily silent, with only the rustling of leaves under their feet. Jessica felt a strange presence in the forest. She had the feeling that someone was watching them from the shadows. They followed the trail that the ghost of Emily had pointed to the night before. The trail led deeper into the forest, and the further they went, the more uneasy they felt. When they had walked for a while, Jessica suddenly saw something sparkling under an old tree. She approached closer to investigate and was horrified to realize it was a piece of white fabric, covered in dirt and appearing old. Jessica picked up the piece of fabric, and she felt a cold current run down her spine. She thought perhaps this was a part of the white dress that Emily's ghost had been wearing. Sarah and Jessica continued to search around the base of the tree where they found the piece of white fabric. They carefully turned over layers of dry leaves and soil. After a while of searching, Sarah suddenly discovered something hard beneath the soil. She dug deeper with her hand and was horrified to realize it was a human bone fragment. Both girls screamed in terror. They knew they had found something very terrible. They continued to dig and were even more horrified to discover more human bone fragments, along with pieces of old clothing. Jessica felt a wave of nausea rise up. She knew they had found Emily's remains. They decided not to touch anything else. They marked the location with a branch and quickly ran out of the forest to report to the police. Sarah and Jessica ran frantically out of the woods, crying as they ran. They ran to Sarah's house and recounted the entire story to her family and neighbors. Everyone was shocked and horrified to hear their story. They quickly called the police. The police came to the forest and conducted a crime scene investigation. They confirmed that they were the remains of a woman, and there were signs indicating she had been murdered. Afterward, the police conducted a deeper investigation into the case. They identified the victim through the remaining evidence and information from Emily's family. It was indeed Emily, who had disappeared in 1990. The police inquired about the people who were involved with Emily at the time of her disappearance. They discovered a suspect, Emily's ex-boyfriend, who had a history of violence. After being interrogated, the ex-boyfriend confessed to his crime. He had murdered Emily in a jealous rage and buried her body in the forest. Sarah and Jessica felt relieved when the truth was finally revealed. They had helped Emily's spirit find justice. After the murderer was caught, Emily's remains were taken for proper burial according to ritual. Sarah and Jessica attended Emily's funeral, feeling a strange peace that her spirit had finally found rest. From then on, Sarah and Jessica no longer saw Emily's ghost. They believed that she had found peace in the afterlife after the truth about her death was revealed. Sarah's house and the forest behind it still held a hint of gloom, but it was no longer as terrifying as before. Sarah and her family still lived there, but they always remembered Emily's story and what had happened. Jessica and Sarah had learned a profound lesson about the danger of secrets and the cruelty of humanity. They also believed more strongly in the existence of the spiritual world and the power of truth. Emily's story is a reminder that sometimes, unfortunate spirits still linger in this world, seeking justice or someone to listen to their story. And sometimes, we are the ones chosen to help them. If you enjoyed these true horror stories, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the channel to follow our latest videos. We will bring you more terrifying and haunting stories. Thank you for listening.